All right, welcome to Jail Talk. Our next episode on the books today was Sheriff Lenn Wood from Coweta County. Is Coweta correctly?
Coweta. Just like a cow
Coweta,
eater.
Coweta County, Georgia. That's it. Coweta County, Georgia, and Sheriff Wood is kind enough to join us today to talk a little bit about his experiences down in Georgia and his life in law enforcement. And Sheriff, if you could introduce yourself to our viewers and kind of let them know a little bit about yourself, your experience, and then kind of how you got into the industry and where you came from.
Okay. I started with Noonan Police Department back in 1978 as a patrolman, and I stayed with Noonan for 17 years. I started with Coweta Sheriff's Office in 1995 and as an investigator, and I've been with them ever since. I went up through the ranks. I was a jail administrator. I was a court administrator. I was over the school resource unit and training unit. Then he finally, I guess he decided he wanted to take a different job. The sheriff did, so he became the U.S. Marshal for the Northern District of Georgia. So I was his chief deputy at the time. So I was appointed in 2019 to replace him in March. And June of that year, I had a special election, had 4 run against me, and I won by 76% of the vote. So
wow.
Since then, I have no opposition, and it's been good.
That's awesome. They know what's good for them. Then. You win by 76%. They know you're doing a good job, and they know what's good for them.
Well, I've got them fooled one. I don't know.
That's perfect. So if I'm doing my math right, it's almost 37 years in law enforcement. 36 and some.
47.
47. Sorry, yeah. See, I'm doing my math wrong. That's really good.
Even more impressive.
Wow, that's more impressive. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that service.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. It's something I was in college doing heating and air work on the side.
Okay.
When I got into it, my friend of mine was doing was policing. I played football with and everything. So he saw me one day and asked me to apply, and I did, and I've been doing it ever since. So.
Wow. What is it you think about law enforcement that really just held your attention and kept you invested for this long?
I think, although we deal with a lot of bad things, the thing that kept me in it the most was the satisfaction of knowing you've done some good, and you get that immediate satisfaction, which I think a lot of us won't this day and time anyway. But you know when you've helped somebody and how good it made you feel, and it's just been good to me. And Coweta County is a little different than a lot of places these day and time. We get a lot of support here from the community, and they really let you know when they think you're doing a good job. And even the deputies that work for us now it's rare that they have to pay for a meal. If they're in a restaurant, someone picks up the meal for them. So it's a great place to be.
That's very impressive, and that support from the community. I worked for 11 years in the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office in Oregon, and that community support is so crucial to having a successful retention, recruitment. All those things come into your personnel.
It really does. It helps us tremendously. That's one thing, and we talk about the recruitment and retention is the officers we have. We're probably close to 97% fully staffed right now, which is unheard of in this day and time, and especially in law enforcement. But it's helped us because people come from other agencies and they come to work here, and then they become our best recruiters. They're calling their friends at these other places, telling them how good it is and how much support we get, and they bring their friends in with them, and it's been real good for us.
So I know when I go around and do my visits with our clients and partners and try to talk to, and just coming from the industry just, almost 3 years ago, um, was my last day in the jail. But it is a national issue right now with having a full staff. I was in some jails last week that are basically a full shift short of deputies to run a jail or to run a patrol. And what are some of the strategies outside of the community support? Because that's something that is probably crucial, but maybe not be completely in your control. But what are some of the things you guys have done to kind of be that leader in the industry where you're saying, hey, we're 97% fully staffed, which I would agree with you. It's unheard of.
I think the biggest thing is that the officers are allowed to do their jobs. The political machines around don't really have a whole lot to influence us on how we do our jobs. We know what we're supposed to do. Where we make sure we have a lot of training, that we train everybody in the way they need to do and act this day and time. And so I think that's a big part of it, is knowing that they can come here, they'll be supported by the administration, and that they can do their jobs.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that being allowed to do your job. I was having a discussion with my boss, our president Tom Graham, just a couple of days ago, and he was saying, job satisfaction for me is not about my salary. Yes, that's on the list, but it's not number one. Number one is my being allowed to do my work. You hired me to do a job, let me do that job. If I don't do it the way you want me to, correct appropriately. So I'm glad to hear you touch on training and kind of that aspect of it. What's your philosophy then as the top of the heap there? How do you filter that down to your leadership team?
Is fairness. We treat everybody fairly as well as we can. Uh, One of the big things we all have to do is that we get so locked in sometimes to, if someone does something wrong, we do the hand grenade effect. We punish everybody, and
Yep.
we individualize it now. Everybody that, if you make a mistake, we're going to address it with you. We're not going to address it with everybody. Uh, so that, one, we know that if we address something with you, you're going to go out and tell everybody. So we don't have to address it with everybody. They know what's happened, what was wrong, and how we correct it. And I think that makes a big difference. If you're made an example, a lot of times it stops anybody else from doing it. And so if you do the hand grenade effect, where you just punish everybody, that kills morale. And if you kill morale, it's going to be hard to retain.
Right. And I mean, again, I would echo those sentiments. I think if you go into a meeting talking about an issue, let's just say, for example, you say, okay, we have this use of force was handled incorrectly last Wednesday, and there's 25 deputies in the room, and only one of them was the one that did it incorrectly. The other 24 are going, why is he talking to me about this?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's important. And as a leadership team, then when you have your FTO program, are those or is that you're cultivating that group? I'm assuming to be your next group of leaders and showing them how to train the trainer.
It is one of the biggest things I think we do. It doesn't matter if you come from another agency or you're brand new out of academy, you go through our FTO program. And a lot of the officers that come from other agencies have come to us after they got through an FTO program, and even said, "Look, I thought it was stupid that I had to go through it because I've been doing this job, but I've learned more about the way things should be done just going through the FTO program than I have at any other agency I've worked at. No one's ever explained stuff to us." And so our FTO program is a big part of it. Uh, it's just, it's not just hiring somebody and say, okay, go out and police. It's, it's showing them what we expect and how we are going to handle the situation. And so it makes a big difference. Training is a
Yeah.
big deal.
Well, I think more agencies are starting to understand that. And one of the things, obviously, as a sheriff, as an administrator, and as previous in your previous roles, liability is a huge issue, and training is what mitigates that liability.
That's right. We
Yeah.
well, see, and I started up the training unit here back in shoot 20 when the state started cutting a lot of funding, and we each agency had to start doing their own. So probably around 2012 or so, we started up our own training unit, and it was just me and another uh, lieutenant at the time, and we were examples of what not to do to start with. But I do know how much how important training is, and eventually it got around to we kind of do the right thing at the right time, and if we have an issue, we don't just handle that issue. We're actually putting training out there to show everyone else how to fix it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has your training changed over the years then, since you guys have had it in place for the last 12 years now? How has that changed?
We're doing a lot more in-house training, a lot more of training on public relations. I think a lot of, and I grew up during the era where it was us against everybody. And I'm sure you did too. The law enforcement felt like everybody was out to get you. And so it was, we were against everybody. That mentality has changed drastically now, and we can't do anything without the public's help. And we train our guys on how to do that. We started up in our patrol division. We started up what we call the ownership program, which we assign an officer to a zone. He would pretty much stay in that zone, and it wasn't just any zone. It was in a zone that maybe his family lived in, so that he would take ownership of that zone. He would become the chief of police for that area, pretty much. And that if he saw an issue and it wasn't something he could address by himself, he could bring it back to us, and we would give him extra manpower to deal with it. But we wouldn't take it over. He would be in charge of handling it. And it really has helped a lot to get the officers involved and understanding that the community is looking to him. They give the community, the homeowners associations and those other things, they get his cell phone number, and a lot of times they're initiated calls straight through his cell phone, and he has to call us and let us know what he's doing. So it's worked out well,
Wow.
teaching them that we can't do it without the public. We need the public's help.
That's so awesome to hear you talk like that. When you hear sheriffs speak, a lot of times, I think some of the national uh, coverage that we get is that still that us against them, and law enforcement is the enemy, or maybe they're not helping. And like you said, that it's hard for a deputy sometimes to pay for his lunch. That's probably very different around the United States.
It really is. But like I said, this community is totally different. But I don't know if uh, it's always been that way to me. I've been here my whole life, so I know a lot of people. But the county has grown so much, a lot of people aren't from this area, but they are living here now, and they bought into the community support. And I think that's a big part of it. Is if we're treated like they really want us here, and I think that's a big thing.
For sure.
Oh.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I think hearing about you're kind of woven into the fabric of the community, and that's kind of part of it. The people don't join the community as a new segment; they weave into that fabric, and that really helps build that camaraderie.
It does. We're a big county. We're population's around 150, 160,000 now, and we're a metro county. We're on the border of Fulton County, which is Atlanta. We
Sure.
border them, and I tell them all the time, if we could build a wall around Coweta, we'd be good. But you know, I see those days are gone. But we are a hidden gem now, just south of Atlanta, and
Yeah.
people are going to move here. We want them to buy into our culture and not bring theirs with us, with them. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's okay to bring some flavor to it, but we're still making the same soup, right? So
that's it.
let's keep adding into it, but we're gonna make the same soup.
That's right.
Yeah,
But
that's awesome. So
it's good.
go ahead.
It's real good. The fact that, and I tell everybody, although we're a large county, we're still got that small town feel. As it's people. That's why people like to come here. We have a lot going on, but we still treat everybody like a small town.
Yeah. So before we let you go, because I know you're working today and you got a busy day, but before we let you go, you've been in it nearly 50 years. What is, if you could put your finger on one thing and say, man, my day one working for the police officer and working for the police, and then now as a sheriff, what's that one thing you say, the difference night and day between day one and day however many thousand you're at right now?
One thing, I would just say that it's the people. I love what I do. Someone asked me the other day, said, "Do you ever go home?" And I said, "Yeah, well, yeah. I get up I'm at work by 7 o'clock in the morning usually, and I go home about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and that's every day
Wow.
of the week. I mean, Saturday and Sundays too. But
Yeah.
it's not like work. I enjoy people. I enjoy getting out and talking to people. And one of the things a lot of people tell me all the time is they like the fact that they see me out. And I like the fact that when they see me out, they'll come up and talk to me. And, it's
For
just
sure.
not, I, you know, I was afraid to talk to the sheriff since I was growing up. That's the sheriff, but people,
Right.
they come up and talk to me now. And I tell them all the time, Lenn Wood is the sheriff. The sheriff is not Lenn Wood. I'm going to be Lenn Wood every day. I'll be
There
the
you
sheriff when I have to be, So
right.
it's worked out well, and I truly enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can tell, and I think you need to do some teaching on how you approach the work, Sheriff, because it's been really fun to listen to your point of view.
It's a little different, but my
That's
community,
all right.
my community encourages it. So that's a big thing. You got to have that
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's perfect. Well, thank you, Sheriff, for joining us. We're going to let you get back to your busy day. We're going to thank everybody for watching. Certainly appreciate your time, sir. And Kylie, you tell everybody where they can see us next time.
Yep. Everyone can find us on YouTube and Spotify at JailTalk Podcast. You can also like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube and on Instagram and you can also find us at turnkeycorrections.com.
There you go. Perfect. Sheriff, thanks again for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.